There's a list that nobody officially made. It's assembled itself, one tragedy at a time over decades. Everyone on it shares exactly one thing. They were 27 years old when they died. Today, we're going all the way in on that list. We've got a crossroads at midnight in Mississippi, fresh water in the wrong pool, a Paris bathtub with no autopsy, a toll booth receipt that someone misread for 20 years. Let's get into it. Okay, so there's this list, and I want to be very clear that nobody sat down and made this list on purpose. It assembled itself, one death at a time, across decades, until eventually enough people looked at it and felt like that thing in their chest that tells you something bigger is probably happening here. The list is the 27 Club. And I've spent a genuinely unreasonable amount of time going down this little rabbit hole. And what I found is that the most cases people think they know are loaded with details that almost never get talked about. Forensic details, timeline details, little facts tucked into coroner reports and witness statements that make the whole thing feel way more layered than just famous people who died young. So that's where we're going today. Let me build this from the very beginning, which means going all the way back to 1938, the rural Mississippi Delta, where a man named Robert Johnson dies over the course of 3 agonizing days. He's a blues musician. He's 27 years old. The most accepted explanation is that a jealous husband arranged to have Johnson's whiskey poisoned at a place called Three Forks. It's a local juke joint. Some accounts say strychnine. Others say it was mothballs dissolved into the drink. Whatever it was horrific. And nobody was ever held accountable for that murder. There's no confirmed grave. 3 separate headstones have been placed in 3 different locations by 3 different groups of people operating on 3 different stories. Robert Johnson is literally buried somewhere that nobody can agree on. But what draws people to Robert Johnson was way beyond the mystery of his death, which is strange, but it goes beyond that. It's the mystery of his life, and specifically what happened to his playing. People who knew him early said he was decent, a solid, competent guitarist. And then he vanished for a period of time, and when he came back, he could play in a way that stunned everyone who heard him. His technique was so revolutionary. His feel was unlike anything people could place. And in the Mississippi Delta in the 1930s, when something can't be explained or couldn't be explained, there was a ready-made explanation available. And that explanation involved a crossroads. The legend says Johnson walked to a crossroads near the Dockery plantation at midnight, and there he met a large figure who took his guitar, tuned it, played it, and then handed it back to him. And in exchange, Johnson received his gift. His soul went the other direction. So essentially, he's selling his soul, if we're reading between the lines here. What I find genuinely fascinating about this is that the figure in the original folklore was almost certainly not the devil as we think of him. Scholars who study African diaspora traditions have noted that the crossroads figure in that cultural context was Papa Legba, the divine linguist who stands between the human world and the spirit world. The crossroads in that tradition is a liminal space, a threshold, a place where you make decisions that permanently change your trajectory. So the story is less about selling your soul to something evil and more about a young man standing at a crossing point in his life and coming out the other side transformed, which honestly is a little more interesting to me. The man who probably actually transformed Johnson was a bluesman named Isaiah Ike Zimmerman, who took Johnson under his wing and taught him intensively. Zimmerman himself was said to practice guitar in graveyards at midnight, so as not to disturb anyone living. That little detail alone probably seeded half of this legend. So the story becomes the spiritual and narrative origin point for everything that follows. And what follows is genuinely strange because 1969 and 1971, 4 icons of an entire generation died roughly 2 years of each other, all of them 27 years old. Brian Jones, founding member of the Rolling Stones, was found at the bottom of his swimming pool on July 3, 1969. The coroner ruled it misadventure, Jones had an enlarged liver and heart from years of substance abuse, and that was essentially the official story. But the forensic detail that keeps researchers coming back to this case is the fluid in his lungs. It was noted as fresh water, which is a problem because the pool Jones drowned in was chlorinated and salt-treated. That's not fresh water, which leads to a question that nobody has cleanly answered. Where did the fresh water actually come from? Jones's girlfriend at the time would later allege that a builder, Frank Thorogood, who had been working on the property, killed Jones during a confrontation over money. That alleged confession was later denied, so the pool is there, the body was found in it, the fluids in the lungs doesn't match the pool, and that's exactly where this mystery stays. Jimi Hendrix died in London on September 18, 1970. The official cause was asphyxiation related to barbiturate intoxication. He had been taking a sleeping medication, and the toxicology showed approximately 9 times the normal dose in his system. The London coroner returned an open verdict, meaning the available evidence did not support a definitive ruling of accident or suicide, so the case was left unresolved. The theory that has circulated since 2009 involves his manager, Mike Jeffrey. A former roadie published claims that Jeffrey had confessed to arranging his death because Hendrix was planning to fire him. According to this account, the method was forced aspiration of red wine. The forensic detail that researchers have latched onto is the volume of wine found in Hendrix's lungs during autopsy was described as consistent with forced drowning rather than aspiration you'd expect from a standard overdose. Pretty weird. Janis Joplin died on October 4th, 1970 in room 105 of the Landmark Motor Hotel. Accidental heroin overdose. She was found clutching change from a cigarette purchase in her hand, which is one of those weird details that always gets mentioned. 3 days before she died, on October 1st, she was at a Sunset Sound Studios where she recorded Mercedes-Benz in a single, perfect a cappella take. And then, in what turned out to be the last recording she would ever make, she sang a birthday message for John Lennon. Yoko Ono had reached out to several musicians to record birthday wishes for John Lennon's 30th birthday. She was one of those. John Lennon's birthday was October 9th, so he received the tape after she was already dead. He confirmed this whole thing on the Dick Cavett Show in 1972, and you can hear in the way he describes it that it genuinely affected him. The album she was finishing, Pearl, contains an instrumental track called Buried Alive in the Blues. She never recorded the vocals for it. The band played it at her funeral. Jim Morrison died in Paris on July 3, 1971, at age, you guessed it, 27, exactly 2 years to the day after Brian Jones. The official account places his death at his apartment bathtub, heart failure. And here's the thing that makes Morrison's case unlike any of the others. French authorities never performed an autopsy. There's no forensic record of what actually killed him. The death certificate was signed quickly by a doctor whose identity has never been conclusively established. His bandmates were not called to identify the body. Sam Burnett, the manager of the Parisian club called the Rock and Roll Circus, has maintained for years that Morrison actually died in a bathroom stall at his club after meeting with drug dealers, and that his body was transported back to the apartment. There's no physical evidence to prove or disprove that account. The absence of an actual autopsy means that there never will be. By 1994, the phrase 27 Club was about to enter the world in a way that nobody planned, because Kurt Cobain was found dead in Seattle April 8th. The coroner estimated time of death around April 5th. The official ruling was suicide, and the phrase that launched the concept into public consciousness came from his mother, Wendy Cobain, who told the press, "Now he's gone and joined that stupid club. I told him not to." What she's actually referring to is genuinely disputed. Some researchers believe she meant a pattern of suicide in her own family, including 2 of Cobain's uncles and his great-uncle. But by the way the quote was reported internationally, the 27 Club became a named thing overnight. And then there's Richie Edwards, the lyricist for the Maniac Street Preachers, who checked out of the Embassy Hotel in London on February 1st, 1995, at 7 in the morning, leaving behind his passport and his medication. His car was found 2 weeks later at a service station near the Severn Bridge, battery dead, suggesting someone had been living in it. For 20 years, investigators believed a toll booth receipt placed Edwards crossing the bridge in the afternoon. It was eventually confirmed the receipt had been misread, he crossed at 2:55 in the morning. That single correction invalidated decades of reported sightings. Richie Edwards was 27. His body has never been found. There's one more piece of this that I'm going to tell you about because while researching this, I just couldn't get it out of my head. It's strange. You've probably heard about the white lighter curse. The claim that Hendrix, Joplin, Morrison, and Cobain all had Bic lighters on them when they died. It's all over the internet. But here's the thing. The disposable white Bic lighter was not manufactured until 1973, which is years after 3 of those 4 deaths. And forensic photos from Cobain's death scene show several lighters in the room. None of them are white. The whole myth is physically impossible, and people still repeat it constantly. Statistically, 27 is not a peak year for musician mortality. Researchers at Indiana University analyzed data on more than 340,000 notable deceased individuals and confirmed it. The age that actually shows up as a statistical peak for musician deaths is 56. But that same research also found that people who die at 27 receive measurably more cultural attention than people who die at similar ages. The myth, once it existed, changed the way that we remember people. It pulled them into a framework that made them mean something collectively. Maybe the 27 Club is a story we told ourselves about a pattern we needed to exist. Or maybe the 27 Club is a real thing. Maybe Robert Johnson did sell his soul to the devil at the crossroads. Personally, I think there's way more to it than statistics.